we feel like we gotta go to church and just be in the shell and kind of act fake. And as soon as we get out of church, even if you're not doing nothing crazy, you just don't act like yourself. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
And I feel like God knows us for who we are. He gonna see us regardless, whether we put on or not.
This is Where You're From, an origin story podcast at the intersection of faith and culture that digs into the influences and experiences that shape who we are today. Join us as we gain insight into the Bible's wisdom for all, regardless of where we're from. Hey y'all, this is Rasool Berry. Thanks for joining me on Where You're From. This week, I'm pumped to talk to the young rising hip-hop star, 1K Phew. It doesn't take long to experience how Phew's passion to authentically proclaim Christ in a context shaped by the Atlanta hip-hop scene motivates him and his music. You can find out more about 1K Phew by clicking on the links in the show notes or by visiting whereyou'refrom.org. That's from.org. Please join me as I ask 1K Phew, where you from?
Man, I am from Atlanta, Georgia, the east side of Atlanta, man. It's a blessing to be on here with y'all today, man. What it do? What y'all got going on?
Yo, we are so excited to have you on. I've been a fan of your music for a while, but the thing that I've also been a fan of, you got hang time. Your locks are almost, with mine right here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See you hiding yours, boy. Yours going to the flow.
Yeah. But yours is looking good too. And we got the braided thing going on, man.
For sure.
Tell me a little bit about life growing up for you in Atlanta. Like, what was some of your influences and what shaped you growing up?
Man, basically, long story short, if I can make it short, I basically grew up in church, really. I was a church kid. My mama had a drug addiction. Every Sunday, she drug us to church. We ain't had no choice, boy. Like, we wake up every morning, that's where we going. But at the same time, it's like we went to church in the middle of the hood, though. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like I'm going to church, but at the same time, I'm getting exposed to all type of things. I'm going back to the neighborhood. I'm just asking to go outside and play basketball, and I'm getting exposed to all type of things. So I don't know. It's kind of like certain things I couldn't dodge, and even though I knew better, I didn't necessarily always do better. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I really had to go through life and find God for myself, because that's really when I got the relationship with him for real. So
yeah. So I was going to say, one of the things in a previous interview you mentioned was how growing up with a mom and a dad was kind of unusual. And, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was the only one in my squad. I was the only one with 2-parent household, for real. It's like every time I would run with them, every time I go outside, try to go on a mission or something like that, like kind of roast me type thing on something like. But now that I think about it, it's like they really was trying to keep me away from that because I was the way out. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I was the one that everyone's seen an obvious future for. I
mean, that's really interesting that folks saw something that they didn't have and they valued it enough to say, don't blow it like we don't have it that way. Do you think that there was something also about you that they saw, or was it just even just your circumstances?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, because I don't believe in coincidence at all. I believe God got a purpose for every single thing. So I feel like he put me around those people for a reason, because even like just the way I moved and just, I feel like they felt my spirit. Like they felt me more than they saw me. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a song that you are on called Church House, Trap House.
Yes, sir.
And I feel like in a lot of ways, it kind of takes a snapshot of this tension that you're talking about. For those that don't know, it kind of break down what a trap house is and why this contrast that you draw between the church house and the trap house in the song is so kind of powerful.
Right. People have a lot of definitions for trap house these days, but really the original definition of trap house is a place where you sell drugs, like, different type of narcotics, stuff like that, and police shut it down, and it's just all type of stuff going on that people ain't got no business doing. But the inspiration behind the song, my church was literally next to a trap house. We would literally have them come to church. Like, we would have a church van, pick them up, bring them to church, and just all type of people, like just drug dealers and just all type of people in church at a young age. But I'm so young, I'm not really knowing what's going on. I'm really thinking that these are homeless people, because it's a difference between when somebody's homeless and when somebody's on drugs. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't really know the difference at that young age, and I didn't really know what was going on. Like, when I would go in the bathroom and see somebody wipe their nose and stuff like that, I ain't really think anything of it. You feel what I'm saying? I'm 5 years old. So it's like, that's really where the concept of the song came from, just really my upbringing and how I came up.
Yeah, and so it sounds like in some ways your church was doing outreach with
Right,
those who
facts.
were affected by drug addiction or use, and then even there were some of those who were participating in various activities that were also drawn to church themselves.
Facts.
They were looking for something beyond even just what the street had to offer.
That's real. That's real. And I ain't gonna lie, man. That's one thing that I definitely wish churches nowadays did more of.
Yeah.
And that's outreach.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I used to love outreach, and just as a kid, I remember we used to always go do outreach. And I feel like we definitely got to bring that back.
Yeah, yeah. And so the interesting thing, though, is you mentioned before, and even in the context of your own story and your songs, that even though you grew up in this great upbringing that other people saw was an advantage and a step up that you had from them, you were still drawn in a lot of ways to the street.
Right.
You know, what do you think was some of that draw for you?
Just culture, coming up around friends and just being young. And,
Yeah.
you know, when you young, you feel like you got something to prove.
Yeah.
I was just young, and I wouldn't even say I was around the wrong crowd, because it's like you go outside, you around the crowd. So it's like you're a party at this point, you feel what I'm saying, unless you're just going to be a loner. But, you know, at a young age, you ain't really trying to do that.
Right. So it sounds like there's this tension, there's this war between the trap house and the church house, and you're kind of being tugged back and forth.
Exactly.
And then at some point, the trap kind of wins and you are in that environment. I'd imagine you'd have to figure out ways to hide it from your family, the stuff that you were involved in.
I mean, I tried, but one thing about that life, you cannot hide. And even if you try, like from your family and from the police, like it's gonna catch up with you one way or another. I'll never forget the day. Like it was so uncomfortable when I had to sit in front of my parents, like both of my parents with 3 federal officers. You feel what I'm saying? It's like that feeling is so uncomfortable and embarrassing. You feel what I'm saying? And it's 12 o'clock midnight, and, you know, the door ringing. It's the police, you know, telling me to come downstairs. Like, that junk was embarrassing, man. Like, just, I'll never forget, like, riding in the back of the police car and watching my mama ride. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing my mama watch me drive off in the police car, and, like, she just, that look on her face, I'll never forget that look on her face. It's no feeling that's more uncomfortable than that.
Yeah.
Like,
How would you describe the look on her face? It was a look of what?
it was a look of, she didn't know what to do. Like, honestly, like at this point, she didn't really know what was about to happen.
Wow. You mentioned a moment that involved a chase in 2013. That was kind of a pivotal moment for you. You know, what happened in 2013?
Yeah, man, 2013, man. That was a year. Just got caught up with the drug scene, and one of these times, we was meeting up with the wrong person, and things just went left. So as we pulling off, we call ourselves trying to hurry up and run from him, and we just messed with the wrong person that day, and he had a gun on him. He shot the car about 3 times. The back window went out. You know what I'm saying? He shot the side rearview mirror. Nobody was hit. Like, this broad day, too. This had to be like 3, 4 o'clock, like broad day.
How old are you at the time?
I think I'm like 19. Either 18 or 19 years old. Man, anything could have happened. Like, we could have gotten into an accident, stopped by the police, could have got hit. Anything could have happened, but we just made it to the destination. And I ain't gonna lie, like, I be telling folks, like, that was my last straw incident right there. Like, on that incident, as soon as we made it to our destination, like, I didn't care how cool I looked. I ain't care. As soon as we made it, I fell on my knees thanking God. Like, because one thing about my relationship with God, like, and I'm thankful for it. And it gets on my nerves sometimes, but I'm thankful for it. Like, I feel like my favorite with God be so strong. Like, he won't let me do something even if I tried to do it. You feel what I'm saying? And but he would still spare me, though. He would punish me, but he would still spare me. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that relationship. But that time right there was a life and death situation. So I feel like I was playing Russian roulette with God. And that situation right there, I feel like God was telling me, all right, like, the next situation ain't gonna be that. You feel what I'm saying? So I feel like I heard that message loud and clear. And from then on, I just chose relationship over religion. Because I always knew, you feel what I'm saying, but I never did the faith walk. And so from then on, I just really started being intentional about my faith, about my relationship, started getting in my word, started applying it to my life. And I ain't saying I'm a robot either. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely make mistakes, but I'm definitely more aware for sure.
Wow, man, that's a powerful story. So it sounds like essentially that moment was a turning point where you were like, okay, I'm following God now. I'm giving my life to Christ. And that was a significant change. And even though it's obviously a work in progress for all of us, there's still an aspect in which that was a pivotal moment.
Right.
So at that point, how soon after that do you start to feel this calling toward music?
Man, I always loved music, to be honest. My mother's a creative writing teacher. And I was also in the band for like 6 years type thing. So it's like I love writing and I love music. But just being from Atlanta, like growing up seeing rappers like T.I., Ludacris and stuff like that, and just sneaking to watch music videos and different things like that, and just watching the culture. I was always intrigued by the culture, but this really what made me start doing gospel rap though. Like I told you, I went to church in Decatur or whatever, and they used to always bring like gospel rappers to minister to the youth and talk to us and give us words and, you know, just different things like that. And that was always so lame. You feel what I'm saying? Like every time they would come, like each and every one of them was so lame. And I was like, dang, like, I know if I got out there, like I would be able to relate to my generation, because I'm one of us. So I'll never forget my pastor, the bishop at the time, long live Bishop Jimmy Lee Smith. He gave me an opportunity. I did like a little freestyle or whatever at the youth night. I did a remix to Pretty Boy Swag. I called it Church Boy Swag. I got up there, and ever since then, I just fell in love with it type thing. I was doing gospel rap ever since then. Like I've been doing gospel rap for a minute type thing. Like even when I was still in the street, I was doing gospel rap. Like even when I ain't changed my life all the way, I was doing gospel rap like the whole time. But God didn't really bless it until I got right.
When we come back, Phew will tell us about how a chance encounter with a Grammy award-winning producer set the stage for his next big move with Reach Records. That's coming next on Where You're From.
This episode is brought to you by Church Law and Tax. Church Law and Tax understands the realities of church work, helping thousands of churches stay informed and get equipped with comprehensive resources on legal, tax, financial, and risk management matters. Do you have a question on housing allowance? Need information on selecting church insurance? Looking for insights on what is or isn't unrelated business income? Or how about some guidance on how to properly receive charitable contributions? ChurchLawAndTax.com equips you for success with access to the most respected and knowledgeable attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, and risk managers guiding churches today. Get the practical information and timely coverage you need to keep your church up to date and lead your ministry with confidence. Join ChurchLawAndTax.com today.
Hey y'all, before we get back to our conversation with 1K Phew, I wanted to share a quick teaser from our next episode with Rebecca McLaughlin. This is Where You're From.
I think there's so much rhetoric today that's drawing on Christians in really unhealthy and unhelpful ways, that's calling us to fight with weapons other than the weapons that Jesus has given us. And the weapons Jesus has given us are the scriptures, prayer, and love.
Now let's get back into our conversation with 1K Phew on Where You're From. And I think that's another thing that I'm hearing, and you recognize with the type of dynamic relationship that you had with God. It kind of reminds me of like even David, right? Where it's like when he had this awareness when he was off and he was like that God had favor on his life and had anointed him to be king. But when he was doing this thing with Bathsheba, God wasn't going to bless his life like he was when he was completely committed and sold out. Do you see some connection with that?
Facts. Definitely. That's almost identical.
So you go out and, I mean, pretty immediately, like with Church Going Wild. Tell us about the significance of that song that you put out, which has at the end this idea of new church, right? So very beginning, there's this sense of newness. Tell us about that song and what that meant for you to put it out. Man, that was a big moment in my career. Shout out to Zay Tobin, man. That's one of the biggest producers to ever do it, man. And just back then, you know, we was doing open mics like almost every weekend at different churches and different event spots. And one church had an open mic cafe one day,
And none of this was before like getting paid or anything. Like, we was just doing it. That's another thing. Like, I feel like artists nowadays, like, they don't really be wanting to put in the groundwork for real. It's like, back then, man, we was going out every week. We was doing so much free shows. It was crazy. Like, just as long as we was somewhere.
I just got to pause to help set this up for you. For those that don't know, Zaytoven is a major producer who has won a Grammy, for his work with Usher. He's worked with Lil Yachty, Chief Keef, Dietrich Haddon, Waka Flocka Flame, everybody, basically. Gucci Mane, the whole nine. So that's who he is, and he's from Atlanta. And he also, has a similar background. But in any case, go ahead, continue this meeting that you talked about.
Right. So when we go to the open mic, the first person I see is Zaytoven on the keys. Like, this is a church event, and he's on the piano. After the show, I realized, like, that's his dad's church. Like, that's his father's church or whatever. But anyway, as soon as I came in, I seen him on the keys, and I was like, oh, man, that's Zaytoven. Like, I went up, I did my thing, I performed or whatever, and I went up to him after the show just to acknowledge him and stuff like that. And he ended up telling me, like, man, I rock with your music. Like, I rock what you doing. Like, I ain't never seen or heard nothing like you. Like, we had swapped numbers and everything. And then he was just like, yeah, I'm going to hit your phone. So the next day, he literally invited me to the house and pulled up to the house. Me and my brother went down to the basement, and I just gave him the flash drive. He put like 10 beats on my flash drive. This did go to show you how old this is, too. This is still when flash drives was out. Like, I gave him my flash drive. He put like 10 beats on there. And one of the beats was the Church Gone Wild beat. The first time we performed Church Gone Wild, it was like, we knew type thing. Because, of course, like, every song we make, we try to aim for greatness and stuff like that. But it was different, like, when we performed it for the first time. And just, I don't know, like, it just took over. It's like the atmosphere just shifted type thing. And ever since then, we just ran with it and making it to the gospel radio station. Then it ended up making it to the mainstream radio station. And it just went crazy from there. And then Church Gone Wild really got the attention of Lecrae and Reach Records and stuff like that. So that's when that conversation just happened. So Church Gone Wild opened up so many doors in my career.
What did the song mean for you? Because there's this image in the video, you see young people being bold about their faith. Kind of like the going wild is just kind of like going hard, in this sense of celebration and praise. What did that mean for you?
I feel like Church Gone Wild really meant like just breaking out our shell. I feel like for the longest, especially the young folks, we feel like, well, really for everybody, really, we feel like we got to go to church and just be in the shell and kind of act fake. And as soon as we get out of church, even if you're not doing nothing crazy, you just don't act like yourself. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
And I feel like God knows us for who we are. He gonna see us regardless, whether we put on or not. So I feel like Church Gone Wild is like, nah, this is the church. We finally coming out our shell. We finally coming as we are and keeping God first.
Got you. And so you mentioned that you end up meeting up with Lecrae. Lecrae discovers the music.
Yeah.
I mean, did you already know who he was, and how did that connection happen, and what was like the first?
Definitely. Yeah, I didn't know him personally, but I knew who he was, definitely, for sure. At the time, I was running with Canton Jones with the KJU camp, opening up for him. Shout out to Canton Jones,
too.
Like,
Kingdom Business. That was fire, man. Yeah.
For sure. Boy, he opened up a lot of doors, not just for me, but for a lot of people.
Okay, so how did you end up getting in touch with Lecrae?
The head engineer at Reach Biz, and it was a God thing for sure, because they had already been talking about me, and then I hit him up, not knowing that they was talking about me. So I hit Biz, the head engineer, and I was just telling him who all I be working with and just what all I had going on. And at the time, Cray was working on the album All Things Work Together. Yes. They had different beats from Zaytoven, Metro, Honorable C-Note, like different producers in the city. Like nobody really up here at Reach at the time really was in that pocket. You feel what I'm saying? Right. So they wanted me to come up there originally to help write records for All Things Work Together. So literally the first beat they pulled up was the Hammer Time beat. Like Hammer Time, that was the first song I did, like when I came in there. And then the second song I did, I forgot what it was, but by the second song, it was like, oh no, we got to get Cray in here. So that's when Cray came in, big 7'8" giant type thing. That was the first time I ever seen him. But he came in and he was just rocking with the music. And he was like, your voice sounds too good for you to just write. He was like, I think we got to keep him on. I just thought he was cap. Because, I've been doing music for a little minute. I done heard everything. So I'm thinking he capped. And he was like, man, you can even write a verse. And if it's hard, we'll keep that too. So I still gave it a shot. And I tried to write the hardest verse I ever can write. So they end up making it.
Well, let me tell you, it was hard. Hammer time goes hard. I
appreciate that.
When I do my workouts, that's my joint. It gives me an extra couple reps.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites, man. Church Going Wild and Hammer Time is, even if sonically they're not my favorite, they're definitely my favorite, like for the meanings and the moments.
And, and I do want to ask you, because obviously there's this theme, we talked about church house to trap house, church going wild, and then even no church in a while, which is the project that you did with Lecrae.
Right.
You seem to have a real burden for the church doing more to have more outreach to people who are your friends, who are the people that you know.
Right.
Tell me more about that, especially as a younger person in the, in your 20s. What did you see as the opportunities and the need for the church to be more focused and effective in reaching your peers?
Man, just meeting people where they are and not expecting everybody to come to where they at, because I feel like most of my partners and bros, they ain't really know who Reach Records or 116 or gospel rap was until I came around. You feel what I'm saying? And I feel like that's how it is, like just all the way around. We just got to start meeting people where they are and showing them like, hey man, like it ain't that bad. You know what I'm saying? You can still swag out. You can still be yourself. Like, yeah, you got to work on this. You got to work on that. But we all got to work on something. You feel what I'm saying? You're not alone. A lot of people just need to know that they're not alone. And the church is kind of, and not every church, of course, but, some churches kind of painted the picture of like a cult type vibe type thing. So it's like people feel like they can't be a part of it. But it's like, nah, church is really open arms. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? You can come on with it. I feel like that's where it can start for sure. It's just meeting people where they are. And it's different. It's different ways to do that too. It's different ways to do that, just as far as like giving people examples of things too. Cause that's a lot of the reasoning behind why I wear jewelry, you know what I'm saying? Like why I try to dress well, like why I try to keep myself up and look presentable, because I want to show the younger people you can look up to somebody cool on the kingdom too.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? It's like they don't look up to the dope boys because they sell weed. They look up to the dope boys because of the things they have. You feel what I'm saying? That's what I'm just trying to present them a better way.
That's amazing. And I'm curious about what has been the response that you've seen. Have you seen people from your crew, people that have reached out to you that have been impacted by this music and this focus that you have on Christ?
Yeah, definitely. All the time. And people outside, like, that I don't know, I would definitely say more than the people that I came up with type thing, because it's like sometimes I just gotta let God work on people like in different ways, because I don't know, like a few of my partners I would try to lead and try to help and try to bring, but it's like they so deep into the streets they'll almost take it like I'm trying to like come at them type thing a little bit.
Gotcha.
But but that's just some of my partners. But most of my partners, like, they riding with it and they rolling with it, like, and I'm working on my cousins type thing, but it's like they still have that relationship and they still see me and they know, not saying that they don't gotta do anything extra. They know that it's not fake or nothing like that, because that's a lot of people's issue. You know what I'm saying? They think it's fake. They think you gotta put on. They think you gotta be something that you're not type thing. And that's really what I'm showing them. I'm like, bro, like, just come to church. Like, just read the word. Like, listen to this passage. Like, you know what I'm saying? He really saying this type thing. I don't know. It's just for certain people, you just gotta break it down. You gotta break it down to the smallest bits.
Was there a time where you thought it was fake, or do you understand why people have that perception that it's fake?
It wasn't a time that I thought it was fake. It was a time that I thought the church, you know what I'm saying, was fake.
Okay.
Type
gotcha.
thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like the culture, the practices or whatnot, you thought that some of that was, and I think there is sometimes a tendency for people to, like you said, put on when they're in a certain setting in an environment. How do you cut through that to like help people say it's something deeper and more meaningful than the faults and the failures of those that they might look at as hypocrites?
Man, just be yourself, man. Like, that's the only way that I learned how to do it. Right. Because even with me being signed to Reach, that was like just the first time with me being around the label setting. You feel what I'm saying? And I felt like I had to put on and change up and be something that I wasn't. You feel what I'm saying? When I first got signed, But just me going and growing and maturing, I'm figuring out, all I gotta do is be myself. The more I be myself, the more comfortable we all gonna be, and the better everything just gonna work. So I said that to say it kind of go hand in hand with the church too. It's like you got to go in and you got to be yourself, because the more you be yourself, the stronger you get. You feel what I'm saying? The more you realize what your flaws are, the more you just all the way around become a better person and a better child of God. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I got to ask you this before we wrap. So my daughter used to go to KAA all the time, first as a student. And then as a counselor. And so your songs became anthems. For those that don't know, KAA stands for Kids Across America. It's a urban Christian sports camp during the summer in Branson, Missouri. And one of your songs, Fettuccine, was just the anthem of all anthems. But she was like, yo, ask him, what does that mean? What was the thought of the song? So break that down.
Man, fettuccine, get the fettuccine, then we give the fettuccine, man. It's like, we get it, then we give. It's really a song about giving, for real. Like, we just, you know what I'm saying? You reap what you sow. Gotcha. You feel what I'm saying? Gotcha. So it's like, if you're selfish, it's going to come back to you. But if you give back everything that you're getting, you know what I'm saying, it's going to come back to you. It ain't really too much of a deep song. It's really,
hey,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm going to disagree with you. I think that is a deep song that actually reflects a lot of your life. Because you saw when you were giving out one aspect, you kept getting trouble and embarrassment and disappointment from your family. But then when you gave your life to Christ, I see that now, I mean, for you to just meet a mega producer in Zaytoven who gives you a beat, which then introduces you to the biggest Christian label in, the world. And then you end up getting on a song with a guy you don't even think would do it because you just met him. Right. And then after the result, you do an album with them. Like, that's extreme giving what you get.
Boy, that is a Hallmark movie right there.
Isn't it?
Boy. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. There's so much more I want to dig into, but
man, we gotta do part 2. Hey,
let's do it, man.
Yes, sir.
Let's make it happen. But thank you so much for the time and for all of what you do. Thank you for turning, your life to Christ and to seeing Him shape you into who you are. And, one thing I wanted to say real quick is that your story reminds me of the Philippian jailer in Acts 16. Where there's this crisis that happens. He feels like he's about to take his life because he thinks he's about to get killed after an earthquake causes Paul and Silas to be released. And then they say, don't harm yourselves. And everybody's in place. And he says, what must I do to be saved? And they say, believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household. And I think about your family's legacy of faith and the impact that it's had on your life. And now how you're making that impact into the next generation. And so just want to thank you for it and to continue to encourage you to keep it moving.
Man, for sure, man. For sure. That's love, for sure, man. And to piggyback off of that, man, I'm definitely taking what I got from my family and applying it to my family too, like to my wife, my kids. You know what I'm saying? Just me being a better husband and father. I'm applying that at the house too. You know what I'm saying? And not just to the world. Of course to the world too, but it's like I ain't safe either. Like, I got to follow what I preach. I got to serve at the house. You feel what I'm saying?
This is Where You're From. I'm Rasool Berry. And remember, it's not just about where you're at. It's also about where you're from. This show was produced by Ryan Clevenger, Mary Jo Clark, and Jade Gussman, and was engineered by Kevin Burgess. I also want to thank Keno and Austin for their help in supporting and promoting Where You're From. Thanks, y'all. Where You're From is part of the Voices collection from Our Daily Bread Ministries.